I've done it! I've created life! I've created the ultimate being! I've created the ultimate Dreamcast! I am now the owner of the ultimate Dreamcast. I recently had my Dreamcast modded with a custom BIOS chip. Now, what exactly does that do? Well, it does quite a few things, and I'm going to go over each one of them in this video and explain why you might want to get your Dreamcast modded. So first and foremost, the main reason to get a Dreamcast modded is to remove the region lock. Now, by default, Dreamcast and many other different consoles have region lock in place, which means you can only play games from a certain region. Now, if you get your Dreamcast modded with a custom BIOS, it makes it region free, which means you can play games from any region without having to mess with boot disks or anything like that, which is really convenient. And I know some of you might think that's lazy because it's really not that difficult to throw in a boot disk and then put in a game and boot it up that way. But it does get a little bit annoying after a while, especially if you play a lot of imports. You have to put in that extra disk every single time. So having a region-free Dreamcast is really awesome, especially if you do own a lot of imports and you play them quite often. So another feature of the custom BIOS is that it removes the Vga Check. Now, if you try to play a game that's not VGA compatible on the Dreamcast, chances are you'll probably see this screen. Quite annoying, isn't it? But with the custom BIOS, it actually disables the Vga Check, so you will never see this screen again. Now, that doesn't mean that you will be able to play any game in VGA, because there are a few Dreamcast games that do not work in VGA no matter what you do, and this will not make those games work in VGA. It just makes the games that normally would be able to boot up in VGA with a boot disk, it would make those games boot up right away without having to use a boot disk, which is really awesome. So another feature is that it removes the copy protection from certain VMU files. Now, if you've ever saved a game, say like Phantasy Star Online, you'll know that certain VMU save files cannot be copied, which can be quite annoying, especially if you want to back up your PSO character to another VMU in case it gets corrupted. It won't let you do that because it is copy protected. Now, with the custom BIOS, it actually disables the copy protection check, which means you can copy any save file regardless of whether it is copy protected or not. So the next one is kind of minor, but still a cool addition anyway. Now, if you boot up any Dreamcast game, you'll notice the first screen that comes up every time is the licensed by Sega screen. Now, with the custom BIOS, it actually skips that screen, allowing you to get into your game a few seconds faster. So the final feature is something that's purely cosmetic, but still really cool nonetheless. It changes the default boot animation on the Dreamcast to the one from the Dreamcast development kit. Now, this is the default Dreamcast boot animation. Very cool, it's pretty simplistic, but I think the new boot screen from the dev kit is really awesome, and it looks something like this. That is really, really cool. It is 3D, it's really well done. I don't really understand why Sega decided to change the boot animation for the retail Dreamcast, but in my opinion, the dev kit boot screen is much cooler looking. And now, of course, this is a matter of taste, but I do like the dev kit boot screen. If you have your Dreamcast modded, you do have the option to install a custom BIOS that has the default screen, so if you don't care for the dev kit boot animation, you can always change it. So there you have it. There's an overview of the various features of a Dreamcast custom BIOS, or at least the latest one that's out right now. But what's really cool about the new chip that's installed in a modded Dreamcast is that it's writable, which means you can update that BIOS at any time if there's a new version with some new cool features that you want on your Dreamcast. So you're pretty much all set for the future. So where exactly did I get my Dreamcast modded? Well, I ended up finding this guy on eBay called Liz5 Crafts and Collectibles. I'll put a link to the eBay page in the description below, but he was offering to do it for a really reasonable price. It was $40 plus shipping there and back, which was a great price compared to some other prices I've seen around the internet. So I was really happy with the price, and the service was fantastic. I sent it in. He literally did the mod the same day and sent it back the next. So I couldn't be happier. I highly recommend checking this guy out if you're interested in getting your Dreamcast modded. And he even threw in a free LED change, which was really cool. I was going to have that done anyway. He normally charges $1.50 for the LED swap, but he ended up doing it for free, which is really cool. And I ended up getting a white LED, which looks slick. I know most people ended up going with the blue LED when they have their Dreamcast modded, but I wanted to stand out, so I went with the white one, and I'm really happy I did because it looks fantastic. So anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I hope I was able to enlighten you on what a modded Dreamcast is able to do. A lot of these features that I mentioned are actually fairly recent additions. If you had your Dreamcast modded even earlier this year, you might not have a lot of those features on your Dreamcast, so I recommend going out, finding the latest BIOS, and upgrading. But as usual, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Yes, Master. This is a very fun game.